Happy Monday. What's up, guys? It's me, Seth, and I'm here with Kel and Cody, and you are listening to The Lab. And today, we're going to be talking about some controversial shit, some maybe not as controversial shit, and just generally having a good time. And it's always good talking with these guys. How are you guys doing today?
Super.
Doing good, dude. Super duper.
As usual.
Well, nice.
Yeah.
What you got planned for the week, Kel?
So I leave for vacation here pretty soon, and I will be getting ready for that, probably. I'm going to Florida. It's going to be fun.
You gonna swim? You gonna go on the beach?
Yeah. Actually, the beach that we stay at was where Jaws 2 was filmed. Fun fact.
Wow, I hope you get an autograph.
Not from the
The shark itself.
Out.
The fin grab.
It's just
Is
like,
it
here's a little nibble. That's my autograph.
Gulf side?
Yeah, Gulf side.
I prefer the Gulf side.
Panhandle.
Like Pensacola? You don't have to tell me. I know it's the internet, but...
No, it's by Pensacola. We'll fly into Pensacola.
Cool. That's fun. I like vacation.
Same.
You deserve it.
Cody, you're going on vacation too. Where are you headed?
Yeah, I'm going to Santa Cruz. So not
Nice.
too crazy far, but also to the beach. It's my favorite beach spot, and yeah, overall, just looking forward to it. I just like the vibe and just the ocean, even if I'm afraid to swim in it. So
You're like, you stay over there. You're so pretty. It's so scary.
I'll put my feet in, but fuck the sharks, man. I ain't taking that risk.
I honestly find it adorable. Like, I picture you standing there, like you like in a sweater, and it's like November or something, or just like cool, because that I know it's like Santa Cruz down to like Monterey. All of it's very temperate and comfortable. You can wear a hoodie, and it's cozy all year. I love it. So totally understand why you'd want to go there. And then there's me, who's like, I'm in the middle of the ocean in the dark, like in the water, like a fucking nut job, and you're like, nah, man. It's just because it's aesthetically pleasing, the ocean, relaxing. And I'm like, I want to be afraid, and I'm going to pay for it. I'm no better than the submarine guys.
You're the submarine.
No better. I am the submarine people. I paid to
You
go
are.
out into the middle of the ocean. I'm like, this sounds really fun. No one's ever died doing this. Yeah, anyway. For me...
I saw a man be eaten by a shark on fucking Instagram out of nowhere, so that was also a reminder of not to go into the water.
It wasn't Reddit?
No, it was Instagram. I guess it happened in Egypt, but I wasn't even expecting it. I'm just sitting on the fucking toilet as usual when I'm scrolling Instagram, and then all of a sudden there's this guy swimming and he just full on gets taken down by a shark. Got him once, and then the guy came back up and he was yelling for help, and the shark didn't care. He just came back for seconds.
So rude.
Just ate him. Fucking just ate him. And the whole thing was filmed. People were like, "Oh my god!" They just
Like, what do you do?
Yeah. So he was just eaten by a shark. It was all filmed, and I'm just more traumatized than I already was. So that was fun.
So I don't know why, but I was picturing a map and I had question marks all over my forehead because I'm just like, which fucking ocean? I'm like, I forgot that there's a whole fucking sea above Egypt. Idiot. I didn't even picture there being sharks in there. I'm like, there's no sharks. It's just a big lake. Idiot. Anyway, it's all gonna... But now that I know that and I can picture it, I have a pretty fun summer planned. I am seeing Pink with my wife next month. She's a big fan of Pink, like the aerial arts and stuff, because she does that. So go watch Pink fling herself around hundreds of feet in the air or whatever, because that's what she does. I'm seeing Metallica, and I'm going to the Reno Air Races.
Nice.
And those are it's supposed to be the last time they ever do it there. I don't know where they're going to move it, but it's the one. I don't know if you guys remember this news story. Do you remember there was a really bad accident with some private planes in a race? Do you remember that 2-3 years ago? Well, I'll send you an article, but my dad goes every year, and we got a news alert thing that was a bunch of people had died because the airplane had hit the stands. My dad was in the stands, we thought, but he'd gone to eat. So that was cool. So we were like, that's really good. that he wasn't there. Anyway, so I'll be going to that, and you're probably wondering why. And it's just like NASCAR, but in the sky.
You're the guy in a submarine. That's why.
It's yeah. I don't have anything to say back to that other than
You're a risk taker.
it's exciting.
Well, I mean, it'll be fun. Hopefully, nothing bad happens. So
Maybe I'll see you around. It's not that far from you.
yeah,
I'll be there for a few days too. You're like, sure, I will. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's closer than you normally are, obviously, or even if when you're visiting family. Reno is literally, I think, only a couple hours. So, yeah, you should definitely
Yeah,
stop by.
geographically quite close. Yes. Anyway,
Nice. So we want to talk about our media roundup today.
Yeah. So this one is we're a little late to the party to discuss this, but it happened. So I feel like we're still able to. It's still Pride Month. It's still within the month. So if anyone saw it, didn't see it, so the White House had a Pride party, and there is particular people, activists, whatever, that were invited to come party and have Pride on the White House lawn. And in one of those moments of pride, I guess there was a trans woman who decided to go shirtless. I think there were some trans men around her displaying their scars, so she decided to display her breasts. Obviously, maybe not the most appropriate. So I guess the question is, like, what do you guys think? Do you think it was appropriate for her to just ride along with trans boys to show off, something that she probably, did work for? It probably costs a lot of money as breast
showing the
augmentation.
jewels.
Or do you think it was probably something that's like, cool, well, you transitioned it to a woman, you should know that women are not allowed to take their tops off on the White House lawn. What do you guys think?
So I just went to Pride this past 2 weekends ago now, and I definitely did not have a shirt on. But okay, so here's my thoughts. Do I think it's appropriate for women to go shirtless at Pride? Yes. Whatever. In Columbus, you're allowed to have shirtless. It is not against the law for the woman to be shirtless in Ohio, in Columbus. But the White House is a little different. And while I don't think it's a Pride, yes, but it's not Pride. It's
Right. It's like professional pride.
it's a performative White House thing that you have to have a little bit different decorum. So do I think she should have been kicked out? I mean, I'm not surprised, but I'm pro shirtlessness at Pride in general.
So, speaking as a person, I guess, who used to have titty tits, I would never have done that, but for obvious reasons. Here's the thing for me. With Kel on it's like pride is pride, and there's all kinds of shit that's cool at Pride. Like boobies are probably like the least of like people's. I've seen some shit. So but it's all, and most of the prides I've been to, it's like there's not really like a bunch of kids. So to me, it's like my questions to you guys, if you know anything about it, would be: was this televised? Was this woman visible to children? And to all that, I would say, why the fuck is a female chest sexual and a male's is not? The purpose of breasts has nothing to do with sex, except how we apply it as an individual. It's to nourish young. Why is it if like a dude has big old man boobies, he can fling around and go, oh yeah, my boobies, my titties, and like prove that she didn't have them before? Like really prove that. Because if these people who again are like, you're not really a woman, I'm like, okay, then why do you have a problem with her tits out? But I do say that, we're not quite there yet with people. I mean, I'm not a nudist personally, but I think that we over-sexualize female bodies in general, women's bodies, I should say, and we could probably lay off. And I really think it's funny when people talk about decorum with the White House when we had Trump in there for 4 fucking years, and he spat on decorum, and Biden continuously spits on decorum when it suits him. He never makes any sense. Anyway, so I'm just that's my opinion. But I mean, functionally, yeah, I get why they did it. I just wish that we didn't see things so pearl clutchy about titty.
Yeah, and I think there's also some, reading the room. I think could be important. I don't think she read the room.
She's like, wow.
Yeah, and to be fair, I don't think that anyone should have had their shirts off on the White House lawn, male or female, because it is more of a professional space. I mean, you're on the president's lawn.
Who is the president? I'm just kidding.
Be professional. So I think really what it would truly kind of is more about is she should have known that there was going to be a lot of media there, right? And you got to think about the representation of your community. And in the moment, maybe she just cared about her own pride and sense of wanting to show off herself, which I can understand. But you also got to understand that shit is going to keep surviving somewhere on the internet when the media is around. And, you got to, how are you going to reflect on your community? And due to that, there was a whole lot of sharing of that photo by conservatives and not and on the left, both giving opinions about it. But it can be damaging to have that be spreading around, and when we're trying so hard to fight and be like, we're not after your children, and then we got boobies in the feed everywhere, exposing around maybe some families and children, and it just isn't a good look. So I just think that there's some value in reading the room and knowing where you're at and how it might be perceived depending on where you are. If you're in a regular Pride Parade in San Francisco, no one cares at all, and I think that's a circumstance where it's fine. So you just got to know where you're at. But
I think to build on that, Cody, I don't think she necessarily cared to read the room. I think her thing was to make a splash. So I don't think that was necessarily like her plan. Probably, I mean,
no,
She wasn't thinking like a politician, or like a representative.
but I do think she should have considered herself a representative of the community,
Yes.
as opposed to a individual, because
A party
that's
girl.
who you are. So I do think that it's not the best representation of when we're in a very serious situation with these people.
Yeah, sorry. I do think that part of me thinks that the people who would have a problem with her being topless have a problem with her being there anyway.
Existing, yeah.
Like the fact that the White House is doing anything. Remember when Obama, when gay marriage was legalized, and he made like the White House rainbow, like with lights, and people were, oh my God, the world is crumbling. I'm like, this. I mean, yes, I agree with Cody, and like it does add more fuel to the fire, but we just pissed them off by existing. I think there's people we're never going to win. But like I said, if it's televised, then you should have the sense to know that like we're not at a point in our culture where like women's bodies aren't women's chests are not like treated the same way as genitals. So
yeah.
But man titties, which again I really think we've got him with that. I'm like, okay, so you admit she's a woman.
Yeah.
There we go. Boom.
I think that was one of her points.
Really? Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, she's like, thanks for,
It's kind of a got him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and I saw some comedian who I think is more in the center, but she was like, thanks to conservatives for all the boobies in my feed today. There's some humor around it as well, and I think it all just comes down to she just was not paying attention to where she was at or the consequences that it could bring to the community just because of the event itself,
Yeah.
So I just think that was probably the main issue. And then, there's always talks about Pride in general. Is it somewhere you should bring your kids to? Is it a family function, or is it something that should remain for adults? And I think that also can depend. Like, say, in my area, Sacramento Pride, it's very low key. There's no topless, bottomless. It's not very sexualized. It's mostly just like companies or like medical groups that come and march and basically being like, hey, we support you. It's not this party type of thing. So in that circumstance, I'd be like, yeah, it's probably perfectly fine for kids to attend. But in San Francisco, there's nakedness everywhere. You don't even see it coming. You turn a corner, there's a dick, and you're like, whoa. So in those circumstances, I'd say probably not great for kids. But yeah, what do you guys think?
I think that kids can come. I sat with a kid at Pride during the parade. Um, but I do think the parents need to know what they're getting into, and I don't think that it should be the community's responsibility to police themselves in order for kids to come. I don't. I feel like it's our time to do us. If you know that and want to bring your kids, cool. But you lose all like that's you sign in the waiver of you can't bitch. In my opinion.
I mean, I think it should be treated like if they're like cinema or a restaurant or a gentleman's club, right? Depending on the degree of nudity. What's the context of that nudity? Is it anatomy textbook nudity? That's one thing. But if you have people who are, like fully in like San Francisco, I know they will fully do sex acts in the street. I've I've seen it at other places too with my own eyes. So I know that happens, and to me, we have to look at who with that individual pride function, who is paying for that? Who's sponsoring it? Because it is up to the sponsors, just like any business, to have some sort of expectations around attendance. And if we want to be above reproach, we really need to look at what types of things are happening at this specific pride, whatever it is. Like the one near me is very much kid friendly, but there are definitely aspects of pride. But then pride, I think people forget it's not just one day. Like there's all kinds of different activities. Like there's some days that are going to be more appropriate for a kid and others that are not. I do think it's up to the parents, but if we want to be above reproach, we've got to mark things in the same way that we would rate movies or, adult venues. Like kids at bars. I hate that shit. Like you go into a bar and you're like, well, they serve food, so there's kids or something, depending on the type of bar. If it's like a brewery, you have kids. Like, at what point does a restaurant become a place where kids can't be, And then they're legally obligated to keep them out. So
Yeah. And once again, it's up to the parents. Like it's the parents' choice of what they deem okay for their children. But I think the way that people like to present it is like, people in the community are just a bunch of groomers and they're just like reeling the kids in. And
yeah, like we want them there.
No,
yeah.
It's like the parade has always been there. It's something that just occurs. It's been this way since the beginning of Pride. So it's not like we're doing anything new to, just reel in all the children and groom them into, I don't know what we're grooming them for anyways, but it's just
war.
it's like this people, now that it's on people's radar, they think that it has this like thing, or we've changed it to just be to recruit children like we're some group and we're trying to convert them, and I'm just like, it doesn't work that way.
The only time I don't want kids at the parade is when I'm fighting over the free stuff.
That's really funny.
If I want it,
get them out of here.
Get out of here.
Very true. But yeah, so I just think that the people that have the biggest problem with it have never even been to Pride before. They've only seen maybe photos or videos here and there.
Like depravity.
Yeah.
Like really specific moments.
Yeah, it's probably mostly San Francisco Pride, but also on that same note, I think San Francisco Pride is probably one of the straightest, because it's not, if you live in the Bay Area, like, it doesn't matter if you're gay or straight, it's a thing to go to Pride. It's
a party.
It's just a big...
It's Mardi Gras for gays.
And straights, they like to go.
Exactly.
They just like to go. So I think, it really just depends on, you got to know. In San Francisco, they say it's all because like the gays and stuff, like there's a lot of straight people there. So it's not all just the community. It's just a fucking party. And then you should know, San Francisco Pride is probably not for kids, because there's a lot of drinking. It's a lot of partying. There's they're celebrating the kinks in the parade as well. You got to be aware of what's going to be coming out there. So that's kind of just probably the most significant one, they might be picturing that every Pride is like that, but that's not.
Yeah, like I think a good example, San Diego Pride. I used to go pretty consistently, and there was one time that I walked by, and it was like a tent, and it indicated no kids allowed. It was like a BDSM domination thing, like where you went in and whatever happened. I didn't go in personally, but I can only assume. And clearly marked, but in the area, like the fairgrounds, there was other stuff that was completely fine, like obviously. But then the people who owned that particular business took it upon themselves to keep kids out, to be above reproach.
No.
I don't think it's. I think we need to stop treating it like it's just one big thing. Like it's a lot of different vendors and sponsors, and anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, like a lot of the kids who are at Pride, like straight people are bringing them. It's not like it's not always queer folks who are bringing children. I mean, the kids I was around were brought by cis parents, cis straight parents.
Yeah. Or they're just going in groups of friends that they just want to go and party. So, and their parents don't know, like if they're in the area, it's just something they grew up with. I think too, conservatives or any religious folks or whatever who are against it and saying it's just a bunch of, pedophilia or sexual immorality. It's like, stop kidding yourselves. You fuckers do the same shit, only you hide it and it's worse. They do all the shit they're afraid of in the background, and they're projecting essentially. So that's what I find very, it's hypocrisy at its finest. So yeah. It's only okay if you hide it, is essentially. So they're like, the abuse needs to stay on the DL. You can't just parade around and be yourselves.
Well, talk about something else that is something on the outside, but not on the inside. What is our topic today, fellas?
So his face was like, what?
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. What is the topic?
I was like, wait, what are we talking about? Speaking of like hypocrisy and lies and stuff, so snake oil in the fitness industry is pretty common and hard to decipher, differentiate what is real, what is not. So we kind of wanted to talk a bit about, the most common kind of snake oil salesman type of fitness and nutrition things there are going around out there. And can you guys think of one off the top of your head that you want to address specifically or first?
Yeah, if anyone tells you, yeah, you've been trying all this stuff, but you're doing it all wrong. There's just this one little thing that you need, but you need to buy this for it to work. If their pitch starts like that, it is snake oil. Period.
Yes, most definitely. Like if anyone who holds the secret to something, you got to question that. There's
not peer reviewed. It's probably proprietary, right? It's a little proprietary blend of whatever the fuck they felt like putting in that. So
yes. Yeah. So, how about you, Cal? Can you think of anything off the top of your head?
Any MLM. Like, if it's a MLM, it's probably not going to work. It's probably some bullshit. Fat burners, another one that I think a lot of people are like, oh, I didn't know they had a pill for this. Bullshit.
Yeah. Herbalife, that shit, it's been a long time since I've seen anyone selling any Herbalife stuff on the internet, so maybe like we finally got through to people and they know.
Well, now it's all Thrive, right?
Oh,
I see Thrive.
Yeah, I see.
Well, I don't know if they renamed the name, but I see a lot of.
Yeah.
And like the pills.
So, yeah, there always will be something
Detox
that tends to pop up. Yeah. So definitely be careful of anything that promises a quick fix or is like the only solution, promises anything. Those are always the red flags when it comes to snake oil. It's not really super in the fitness industry, but like essential oils are the MLM, doTERRA or whatever. There's a whole Netflix series about this, by the way. I always forget the name of it, but it goes through certain things in like health and fitness that are kind of snake oily, and essential oils was one of them. It's crazy. I'll find the name of it somewhere, but
I think I've seen what you're talking about.
probably I can't remember what it's called though. Sorry.
Can't either. It's a little older.
I'm just thinking about the Bob's Burgers episode where Linda gets really into essential oils.
I love Bob's Burgers.
So do I.
That we have to watch it every episode. Like, what'd you think of season 1? Cody's like, I'm watching that cartoon.
Like a zillion times.
Same.
But I don't know. I think anybody who's trying to say that they're the only way in the fitness industry is a bad sign. There's not any one way. There's not a quick fix. There's just not a magic pill, and I think our society is very trained to think I can cure everything. There's one scientific way to do this, and that's just simply not how it goes. There are no shortcuts. There are no quick fixes. There's no way to drop 50 pounds overnight. It's just not possible. And I think a lot of distrust happened in real science during COVID, and I think our society has been kind of changed with what people think of as the truth and where experts lie. I read a podcast called "The Death of an Expert," just essentially saying that no one can trust anything anymore, and they're not even trusting people who are deemed experts. I know that got a little off.
No, I mean, you're right. It kind of is tied in, though, right? Because real science is not very sexy. There's lots of waiting. There's lots of peer reviewing and getting someone else to agree. But then that's why, if people ever think that their feed, if they follow a lot of fitness accounts like us, is we do put out a lot of similar content to other fitness pages. But that's because it's true. It's because those other ones that you're surrounding yourself with are going by the evidence, proven evidence, and like the profiles of things need to be within like safe parameters or whatever. But then you have these people who are like, you know what? You need to be eating only ancient meat from the bones of blah, 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 and you need to have bone broth with every meal. Carbs are bad. Anything that tells you that one huge type of food is bad or this one specific ingredient is ruining your life and they're not your doctor, fuck off. My other thing, too, is the word detox. If I hear that word, I'm not listening to you anymore. My liver does that. My liver does that already. It's a healthy liver.
Livers.
Well, and I think there's more scientific sounding things that people are trying. Like, I think people are very concerned with like the 3 things that could be, in very rare cases, an issue that's causing you to not be able to lose weight, like your thyroid, or the fact that you're insulin resistant, or that or your insulin resistance is messed up, or that you're weight loss resistant. And I think that is also very risky, just because everybody thinks that they're the special case, and it's really blown out of proportion because not everybody is special. You're more likely the average person.
Yeah, it's like the whole yeah, like eating, like you're not eating enough to lose weight.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get
that
from clients occasionally when they sign up, because that's what they've been told maybe at some point, or that's the popular thing to say at the moment. But it's like when someone says that, we know that usually, when someone labels himself as a chronic undereater or doesn't eat enough to lose weight, it's not that they're literally not eating enough to lose weight. Scientifically, that doesn't make sense. It's the fact that they're not eating enough throughout the day, throughout the week, whatever, and then they go binge on the other days, and then it just completely throws away any progress they might have made. So in that sense, it's like, yeah, you're not eating enough in the sense that it's causing you to binge eat.
Yeah, because you're not right. It's the people not eating volume, because that was something that you told me early on. I was like, I'm hungry. I'm like, well, what the fuck are you eating? You're not eating stuff that'll keep you full. So I think that's where people got lost. They probably did hear some of the. I know there are people who say, like, you need to be eating 3,000 calories or you're not going to lose a single pound, girly. And they're full of shit, But then you've got the people who are like, hey, you're not eating enough to lose weight. And if you keep listening and not just to the tagline, you would hear, responsibly, you need to be eating volume food if you're right, instead of this calorie dense, very processed small portion that's going to be 3 times the calories. Like, yeah, you aren't eating enough.
Right. And, there is some weight in, hormones. Things can get complex. There are things that can make it harder to lose weight, but not impossible. To my knowledge, there's nothing that makes it impossible, because anyone who gets dropped off on a deserted island is eventually going to starve, whether your
Physics.
thyroid is low, yeah, exactly, or you have insulin resistance. It's going to reverse as you starve. So all of these things that are potential issues with losing weight,
We're not saying starve.
No, can be resolved with basic things, right? Lowering your stress levels, eating more whole, nutrient-dense foods, staying away from the processed stuff, because that's obviously not helping if you are insulin resistant. Either is stress. So there's all these things that might be contributing to these other factors that are making it harder for you. But that doesn't mean your body's broken. That doesn't mean it's impossible. That just means there might be some things that are making it harder in the moment, but you can actually reverse that or fix that by following the basics, and you don't need this complex plan in order to get you there. And if someone's like, I can get you somewhere without ever dieting, all we got to do is XYZ. We got to bring your cortisol levels to here, and we got to reset your insulin sensitivity. It's like, okay, how do you do that? You eat right. You change your diet. So that's in my opinion, that would be considered, a little bit on the dieting side. So that's a lie, first of all. Reducing stress, getting sleep. These are all things that are not complex, but can still fix these complex issues. But people like to sell it as like, you have to hire me so that we can get your body fixed and get you on the right track to weight loss.
Yeah,
And
only I can help you.
Yeah, I think that's what kind of bugs me the most, because they like to sell people into this state of hopelessness. Like, your body is fucked. Come to me, we'll fix it. Then you can lose weight.
Yeah, it's like trying to break someone before you can fix them. It's poisoning them and giving them the antidote to the other hand, right? So
yeah, what I actually think is, it is snake oil to me. I don't know please tell me your guys' opinion, but the Jenny Craig type of programs, technically, yes, you will lose weight, but nobody fucking talks about keeping it off. They'll say lose weight and keep it off if I eat your food for the rest of my life, because you're not teaching that person anything about how to prepare their own food or how to assess their hunger levels. You're just saying, eat these 3 times a day, boom. Because, if they're doing within a certain, if you're a 300-pound man and you're eating 2,000 calories and, your lean cuisine, Jenny Craig type stuff, yeah, you're going to lose weight. But then the minute you're like, oh, I've been so good, I've lost, 40 pounds, and then you reward yourself and it's holidays, and then all of a sudden it's February the next year and you're like, I guess I got to do Jenny Craig again. And then they got you.
my mom did that for years.
It's so upsetting.
Nutrisystem was the one that she liked.
Yeah. They got those commercials.
I would say Weight Watchers is a little better because they don't sell they do have Weight Watchers products, but that's not their main selling point. They do a point system now. So it does kind of teach you, a little bit better how to pay attention to portion sizes. And
yeah, not them.
It's easy way to count calories. I still don't know how much success people actually have with it, though.
I don't understand it. I don't understand the point system. I tried to read it before. I'm like, this is harder.
Yeah. There's things like 0 points, like vegetables and stuff like that. Is like, oh, you can eat as much as you want because no one got overweight by eating too many vegetables. But I think it's good for people who don't know where to start or need a little help, kind of thing. But I don't know that I've met someone who's sustained the weight loss long term with Weight Watchers. So unless that's you and you're listening to this right now, let us know. We'll have you.
We'd love to hear from you. Yeah. Defend yourself. Show yourself.
But yeah, I'm trying to think of other things that are a little snake oily. I think just right now it's very, very popular to be talking about potential things that are wrong with your body that's preventing you from losing weight. And so it's just like, I just want to stress that there's probably a reason behind it. Um, and if you do have true like thyroid issues, it's something you need to see your doctor about. They do have ways to treat that, outside of making lifestyle changes. But it's still not a mystery, and there's not a magic solution. So if anyone's trying to sell you that, run away.
Yeah, and if you feel yourself, feeling that appeal of the magic solution, which who among us in our lives hasn't been like, before you get educated on things like that, really ask yourself, like, what do these people want from me long term, and how is this profitable? Because, I mean, it starts with that. Where's the money? And I mean, I don't know. It's all tied in with why would you even want to do that in the first place? And to me, that comes back to a lack of understanding. Like, I know we talk a lot about how people reward themselves with food after like restricting when really they could have just been eating more, and then that feeling of deprivation, and then they're like, why aren't I losing weight? But it's because they're overeating. So then they're like, well, there's something wrong with my body. Like, we should start with properly tracking. It's not particularly sexy. People really want to be like, oh, I'll just eat meat. That's easy. That's easy to remember. I don't have to do anything. Just eat meat. And it's like, okay, well, now you're going to have some different problems. Like when you're bright red and, I mean, I don't want to go into too much speculation, but I have a hard time believing that much saturated fat is good for you.
Yeah, I wouldn't trust it at this point in time, at least. Like, there needs to be
more information. Studies. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I think too. When I think of, so what was I even gonna say? Never mind. I was thinking anything. God, sorry, my brain just farted. So
it's okay. Mine's starting to do it.
Yeah, I think a lot of what this is just be aware of what promises you're buying into. Be aware of what they're trying to get out of you, and just look at it responsibly. Do your research.
Yeah, and self-awareness. I feel like for anyone looking for a solution outside themselves, don't let your own resistance to self-awareness let you fall for bullshit. It's much better. It's uncomfortable. It sucks to look within and then be honest with yourself, but that's potentially what's going to prevent you from falling for bullshit. So
yeah,
to folks out there that are like, oh, tracking my food is bad for my mental health. Is it really bad for your mental health, or is it just uncomfortable? Like, do you not like to actually see what you're eating because you feel shitty about it? What is the truth? You got to find that out for yourself. But ultimately, self-awareness is quite literally the only way you are going to get to whatever your goal is. Without that, you're just going to keep falling for bullshit, or you're going to keep shoving things under the rug. You're just going to be going blind. You're going in directions blindly because you are unwilling to look at your own bullshit, and it sucks. It's uncomfortable, but you got to do it if you want to ever get somewhere.
Yeah, your mental resistance will get you long before your insulin resistance. Like, it's really just having to start out with that and be like, okay,
that's a t-shirt.
You're like, well, let's start off with that. Like, what are you feeling resistant to about the process? Because yeah, it's fucking hard, especially if you have underlying health issues, be they mental or what have you, that aren't necessarily related to weight loss resistance. But there's all kinds of reasons why people fall off, and I think it's just a matter of consistently pushing, not accepting shortcuts, not thinking that ketosis is going to save you if you don't have epilepsy. Not that it doesn't work for people, but that's a whole other thing. Anyway, fads of any kind are not great.
Yeah, and we say it all the time, and what is it that is going to be sustainable for you in the long run? And there's so many people out there that say that diets don't work, weight loss or whatever doesn't work because no one is able to keep it off in the long run. But I think that's because people fall into the stuff that's not sustainable, and like that's why it doesn't work in the long run. No one can keep this up for their whole lives. So it takes time. It's something you kind of have to, it's a process. You're not going to just change overnight and get used to it. You have to like unlearn a bunch of habits that you learned throughout your whole life. That is not easy to do. It's not going to happen quickly. Um, and I think, I've talked about this a lot on my Instagram and shit about, we have, I feel like we romanticize this life of balance, right? And especially when it comes to food, but it's not always realistic for people, especially when it comes to food addictions. And you think that you could still be eating donuts in moderation when it's like your drug of choice. I think there's times where we're going to have to be a little unbalanced in order to kind of get that out of our system. We've said before, no one ever says, I'm just going to have a little bit of heroin, it'll be fine. It's called balance. So, in the same way, if you know that you cannot stop eating a certain food, you might have to stay away from it for a while. And that's not balanced in the world of food, but it might just be something you have to do in order to get in a more balanced place to improve your relationship with food. And there's just a lot of kind of gray areas sometimes, but I think we need to stop sometimes giving people this idea that you can have your cake and eat it too, even from the start, because it
Literally.
isn't really true. And, even for me, like if someone comes to me and is like, I want to look like you, I have to be like, okay, cool. Um, well, here's what you have to do. Like, this is
You're
what
gonna
I do.
suffer.
Yeah, it's like I do the same thing every day, but at the same time, like, I enjoy that. Like I like how I function in my life. It's not for everybody, but here's the reality: is like for me, I enjoy the unbalance. Right? I'm rigid. Whatever. It fits my personality. It's not going to be for everybody, but it's realistically like for me, I have balance where I can, have a treat and I am not, obviously never hungry. And, I can relax when I need or I can be rigid when I need. But that didn't happen. That wasn't how I always was. So I was very unbalanced for a long time. But through learning, what macros are, tracking my food and meal plans and stuff, I can eyeball portions pretty well. And I'm pretty much a human calorie calculator just by looking at something. So
It's really weird. I've witnessed that. Yeah.
yeah, right. So you
Yeah.
have to learn how to get balanced, and it's not going to just be something you have from the get go.
Yeah, I mean, I think you touch on an important part of like balance. It's I think it's okay for like a general pop, like general fitness person to look for balance, but yeah, you can't start out that way. Like to get somewhere, like if you're starting a business or you're starting something new, you have to put in like some front effort, some front loading and kind of get kicked off, just in the same way you watch My 600 Pound Life and they make the drive to Houston from wherever, and within an hour they are like, I need to be rewarded with a cheeseburger, and I feel so sad for them because they're so addicted to it, and that reward system, like, I'm suffering, I need relief, I need this dopamine, I'm going to do this in the same way that any addict would, right? So I do think that they deserve empathy, someone struggling with that in the same way that an addict would. But then it's just so complex because you can't just stop eating food. So, like for me, white bread does not get purchased in this house. It does not get brought back here because if you bring a baguette into this house, it will be gone. And only one person will have eaten it. I am a menace when it comes to bread. So, bread, no. My wife has had to adapt. But anyway, it's just like that because I know that bread is a problem for me. it's.
Yeah, and I think too, people have to define what balance even means to them because we could
Right.
have a different idea of what that means. So, like, maybe someone's idea of balance is being able to have a treat every day, and unfortunately, if you want to get anywhere with weight loss, I mean, you could fit it in if you fit it into your calories and macros, but you might be really hungry, like because maybe you want
Yeah.
cake every day, so that's a big chunk of your calories if you can only eat like 1,800. So, what is balance? What is that to you? Where do you want to potentially get? And yeah,
And being realistic, and I think because for Gen Pop people, they don't normally have to be as um, rigid and as strict as a competitor. But you have to have realistic expectations that it's not going to be fun forever, and it's not going to be fun all the time. Sometimes you have to kind of grind it out, and I think it's just being realistic with that it's going to get hard. It's just the most important part.
Yeah, and let's be real here. Like, as far as like having a treat every day, if you're gonna have significant weight loss, that treat's gonna have to be like protein ice cream. And while I do love protein ice cream, it's not really a treat. You know, it's not really gonna satisfy that part of you that wants like. So, you know, when we talk about treats, like I think you both usually, and myself as well, it has to be about part of the experience because food is cultural, food is social, as long as it's within certain confines. You can still stay in your goals and have a social life, and I think that's where when we talk about balance from our perspective with our programs, that's where it comes into play. But maybe to someone else outside of that would be like, that's insane. Like how can you only go out to eat or have whatever like once a week or once whatever your treat meal situation is. But anyway, yeah.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Perfect. Do you guys have anything else to kind of add in on snake oils or move on to the power talk?
Yeah, I think that's about it from my point.
An actual snake oil.
Yeah, gotta watch out for that.
Yeah, don't do that.
Sneaky snakes.
If he's got his
All
little
right.
carriage. Anyway, so.
So today's quote, since we did talk about the White House, is from a former president. So we have a quote today from Barack Obama. If you're walking down the right path, you're willing to keep walking, eventually you'll make progress. And I really like that, especially with what we're talking about today. As long as you set yourself up in the right direction and you just keep going in that right direction, no matter how slow it is, you're going to get there eventually. Even if you're not making super fast progress, you're going the right way. So I just really like that.
I like that too. Thanks. It's motivating, and yeah.
Yeah, and it's a marathon, not a sprint, of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah, everyone
Absolutely.
has heard that before. But I think it's just people like they think they got to do things so fast, and there is this time frame or of acceptable weight loss or whatever, and it's like, where is that coming from? Like, is someone telling you that you need to lose X amount of weight by this time, or is that just coming from yourself?
Yeah, and it's not going to fix everything.
No,
Not by a
just
long
like,
shot.
Just like transitioning. Well, weight loss doesn't fix
Yeah.
everything.
It's a
You
piece of it.
Still gotta do the work, right?
You got to go to therapy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
The Lab brought to you by going to therapy.
Brought to you by ketamine.
And Celexa.
That's what I'm on too.
So, yep,
Alright.
cool. We'll wrap this up. Thanks everyone for listening, and don't forget to subscribe, follow, whatever the button says on whatever platform you are listening to,
And comment.
we will talk to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.